Hello, I am Paul Granger. I am the president of New Visions Civic League, and I wanted to take a moment to do something that I started last year, which is a State of New Visions video to start the year. So we're in 2022. It's been a wild ride, and 2021 was interesting. Despite what most of us hoped and believed, we had to continue meeting virtually. So we continue to meet on Zoom and having meetings as often as we are able. And we actually had some great moments. Among those, we had a number of great guest speakers. Many of those recordings are available on the YouTube page. And we also had an affordable housing series where we heard from entities like Urban Hope and Real Life to explore what is affordable housing, what does it look like in our neighborhood, and what can we do to create more affordability for our neighbors who need it most. So we had some great conversations. We also had a number of times where we weren't able to meet because of a scheduling conflict or an event or something like that. And so coming into 2022, I've been thinking a lot about what will things need to look like this year. So as far as meetings go, obviously, Omicron is going around. There's probably a new variant around the corner, and the likelihood of us meeting in person remains slim for now. The perk to meeting virtually is you don't really have as many excuses to not meet. If you're in your pajamas, have the video off. If you're driving somewhere but you want to listen in, then have the video and the audio off. So there's a lot of ways to actually connect. And because we are doing it virtually, we're able to record those so that if you can't be there at that time, you can watch later. So there are a lot of perks to meeting virtually. And in fact, when we do start to meet in person, I plan on keeping a virtual element available for all the reasons that I just mentioned. My hope is to continue to meet monthly in some kind of meaningful way. The thing is attendance is not great. This has been an issue for a number of years, but particularly coming into this year, I want to think about how we can address that. Is it an issue with the time or the day? Is it an issue with the content? So I've already reached out for some of that information from some of you. I've been thinking through it, but I want to find a way for there to be more engagement. Because here's the thing that I've realized, even if meetings aren't attended, in the conversations I have, there is a high interest in what New Visions is doing and in just generally supporting the community in general. So people want to engage in the way that a civic association engages. It's just right now, it's hard for people to know what that looks like, what that should look like, what they want. It's even harder when there's a pandemic going on and it's hard to know what we want in our lives at all. So I want you to personally be thinking about what investing in our community looks like for you, and what investing in New Visions looks like for you. And that's going to take two forms. So one is our recurring communal engagement. If we have a meeting, how can you commit to being a part of that? What would make it easier for you to engage in that? So that's the first piece. The second piece is this. There is a lot that something like New Visions could do. You can look at larger civic associations, more established civic associations with officers and board, and you can see the scope of what they're able to do. Our capacity isn't limited as far as opportunities go. We have a lot of opportunities. And in fact, our specific geographical footprint is really unique in many ways. And there's some beautiful opportunities to live out neighbors helping neighbors in our geographic footprint. What we're limited by is the people. We need people who are willing to step in and say, I'm willing to commit some of my time to making this happen. Now, that can scare people. If I were to say we're going to elect officers, we might find ourselves in a position we were 2 years ago where people didn't really want to nominate themselves to become officers, which is why I'm the elected officer before you today. And we have some vacancies. We have a lot of vacancies. And so as I've thought through, do we try to reelect for that? I wasn't really feeling like that was going to work, especially based on our attendance. But I also know there are people that desire to serve. So I want to take a little bit of a different approach. Instead of having the normal officer roles and the officer approach to doing it, I want to say this. There are several different key ways and valuable ways that someone like you could serve with just a couple hours a month. That's right, just a few hours a month, and you can play a meaningful role. Because if you think about it this way, the more people we have serving just a few hours a month, that's a lot of people doing a lot of hours of work for our community. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sending out a simple form where you're able to share a few things. One, you're able to share your willingness to serve, whether it's, I really want to serve in a formal way. If you have officers, I want to be an officer. I want to engage, right? You got that? All the way down to, I just want to go to meetings. That's it. And everything in between, including, I'm curious, but I don't know. And then you have an opportunity to look at examples of what roles look like and to choose ones that interest you. You're not committing to anything in this, by the way. You're expressing your interest. And I'm going to take that, look through it, and see what rises to the surface. But to give you some examples, some of the vital roles are roles like the president, or if we had a vice president. Those would be the folks who make sure that New Visions is happening, keep an eye on the foundation, on the values, on the vision, on the goals, coordinate all the pieces and make it work, help the meetings to roll smoothly. That's that role. You have the treasurer. Back in the day, we used to do fees. I have not pushed it during the pandemic, but we want to find a way to invite people to support New Visions so that New Visions has funds to then support the community. And we've used funds in the past to do some wonderful, wonderful things. We want to continue to be able to do that. We need somebody that will oversee that process. Communication. Right now, Sunny's been doing a great job at setting up a website for us, but we have a website and we have social media presence. And it would be great if there's someone who loves doing that kind of thing to take that and become a voice of New Visions for the community, to engage, to have regular content, to get information out there to people. Then there are things like not vital roles, but they are incredibly valuable. Someone who likes to plan events could take the lead in planning events for New Visions or connecting us to events that are happening. It could be somebody that does community connections. They find out what entities are in the community and how can I make sure New Visions is connected with them and connect the members to what's happening there. We need a historian, somebody who will go through our past history and find a way to digitize it, to get it off out of these binders of paper, and then to figure out how can we mark what New Visions is doing more moving forward. Someone who likes to go to meetings, that's a great role. You can go to council meetings, 7th district meetings, and then report back relevant things to us. There can even be someone like a New Visions advocate that goes out into the community, talks to neighbors, and tries to get more neighbors to be a part of what's going on here, right? So there's a whole list of roles. But even more than that, I leave a gap for you to share if there isn't anything on the list that speaks to you, but you have a way that you want to serve, then great. Because the more people we have formally committing to giving their time to New Visions and to serving, even if it's just a few hours a month, the more that can happen. I'm a single person that can do singular things. And I'm saying here directly, I really want to have a team of people around me that can say, I am committed for this year to serving in this way. Let's go. And then we can see what happens. So my plan is to continue to keep serving New Visions as best I can in the ways that I can, connecting us with things. And so coming into this new year, I think the things that we need to keep an eye out for are, one, a lot's happening with Unity Park. Rick Tatnaw, if you've been at the meetings, has spoken much about that. There's an event coming up, I believe, on April 4th. And so many other opportunities. There's a lot happening there. That's right next to us. So we should be paying attention to that. A lot to do with housing. Prices are still up, but also there's a lot of new construction. From where I'm sitting, I often cannot hear much of my own thoughts because there is construction right here. Homes were just bought right here to renovate. There's a big project here at 20th and R. There's a lot happening. So we need to be thinking about how that plays into our community, how it impacts our neighbors, and so much more. I mean, we're in the midst of a pandemic. Elections are always around the corner for different offices. There's violence is still something that is on our radar. So there's much that we can talk about this year and much that we can do to engage it. The only way it works, though, is if we live out the core value of New Visions Civic League, which is neighbors helping neighbors. It's a communal thing. We, the neighbors, you and me, we need to come together and work together so that we can serve our fellow neighbors. So my invitation to you is to authentically think about how you're willing to engage with New Visions this year. At the very least, can you commit to being a part of the meetings or events that we might have? Even if it's just periodically make some kind of a commitment, but I would love consistency. I would love to see more of you. Even if it is still virtually, there's a power to us coming together. And then two, to think about, are you willing to give in a more formal way, to engage and connect for even just a few hours a month in a specific realm, so that you can say, this department, communications, the finances, whatever it is, I am committing to taking this on, to taking responsibility for this, to help New Visions to really thrive, and so to help the neighborhood to thrive. All right. So I'm sure I missed something, and if I did, you can reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Right now, I would love to have a February meeting, so keep an ear out for that. But I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being a part of this neighborhood, and let's be neighbors helping neighbors.